buzzing. The Mets, they just wrapped up a 7-2 homestand, taking down the Dodgers, White Sox, and sweeping the Rockies right out of Citi Field. Francisco Lindor, he's waking up. Juan Soto, his bat is starting to make some noise, and suddenly, this team looks dangerous again. But now comes the test. A 7-game West Coast swing with 4 in LA, 3 in Denver. So, can the Mets stay hot away from home? Coming up on the premiere of Straight Outta Flushing, should Mets fans be worried about Juan Soto's start? We talked to New York Post Mets beat writer Mike Puma. We're also going to check out what fans are saying online and dive into why Edwin Diaz has been absolutely unhittable. I'm Dexter Henry, and if it's about the Mets, you know we're bringing it to you straight out of Flushing. All right, let's lead things off with the 7-line report. And folks, if you were not at Citi Field this week, then you missed yourself a party. The Mets, they wrapped up a winning homestand 7-2, taking series from the Dodgers, the White Sox, and then they put those Rockies on a plane back to Denver with 0 wins and a whole lot of regret. Now, it started with a statement. The Dodgers, they came to town with superstar power and October expectations, but the Mets, they took 2 out of 3 against the world champs, and more importantly, they got a huge boost from the rotation. Kodai Senga, he had an impressive start in the 3-game set, 5+ innings, 1 run, and enough splitters to make LA look lost at the plate. The offense, they backed him up too. Big swings from Pete Alonso and a pair of 2-run homers to put the game away in Kodai Senga's start. Then came the White Sox. And look, the Mets, they missed a chance to sweep a team that basically is in full rebuild mode. But they took care of business early in the series. They got 2 wins. Jeff McNeil had a couple of key hits. The bullpen did its job, and the Mets won the first 2 games behind some solid defense and just enough offense. Now, could they have closed the door in Game 3? Yes, but a series win is still a series win, and they didn't let this loss carry over. So, then the Rockies, they show up, and absolutely they look dominant, the Mets did. A clean sweep, 5-3 win on Sunday to bring out the brooms. And the Bats, they're officially heating up. Francisco Lindor launched 2 bombs on Sunday. Juan Soto ripped another RBI double. And the Mets, they've scored 29 runs in their last 6 games. That's the kind of momentum that you want heading out onto a West Coast trip. So where does this leave us? The Mets, they're winning series. The rotation is getting healthier. The Bats, from Lindor to Alonso to Soto, look like they're finally coming alive. But now, here comes the challenge. A 7-game West Coast swing, starting with 4 more against the Dodgers in LA, followed by 3 at the altitude in Colorado. The homestand definitely was a vibe. Now the Mets have to travel well. So we'll see if this team is really starting to click, or if Citi Field just caught a vibe last week. Now, one of the biggest topics surrounding the Mets all season long has been the play of their big offseason acquisition, Juan Soto. Now, when you hand a player $766 million, you expect returns, and you're going to expect it immediately. Right now, Juan Soto's first few months in Flushing have been anything but amazing. Soto's average is hovered around the mid-230s. The power hasn't been consistent, and he's struggling in big spots with runners on base. So the question is, should Mets fans be concerned about Juan Soto? Well, let's put this into context. Soto isn't the first big bat to take time to find his swing in Queens. Remember Bobby Bonilla? Back in '92, hit .276 with 8 homers through his first 58 games. Fans, they had high expectations for Bonilla, and he never really shed the pressure of that contract. Mike Piazza, he landed in Flushing in May of '98. He hit .330 with a .979 OPS in his first 58 games, but even he had an adjustment period before taking off. Carlos Beltran, great Met, eventually, but in his first 58 games, a .279 average, 7 homers, and a .772 OPS. Solid, but far from star power. And fans, they let him hear it. Now, when you look at the track record, Soto, he's been a slow starter before. In San Diego back in 2022, he hit just .232 in his first 58 games. Then he bounced back. In New York with the Yankees just last season, .312, 15 bombs, and a .999 OPS. Soto, he's 26 years old, and he's got a track record of adjusting. He's way too good of a hitter to stay down forever. But this is New York. The lights, they are hotter. The boos, they come louder. And with the size of that contract every strikeout feels really heavy. So, should you be worried right now? No, I don't think so. Not yet. But if he's hitting under 240 with runners in scoring position after the All-Star break, then you have to say, it's not just a slow start. It would definitely be a problem. Okay, now it's time for Dugout Discussions, where a guest joins us to talk about the Metropolitans. And joining us for the first episode, it's a great beat writer who covers the team for the New York Post. It's my great colleague, Mike Puma, who joins me now. Mike, how are you doing, sir?
Dexter, everything is good.
Good. I'm glad you're well. You're out on the West Coast, and the Mets are about to embark on a road trip out there. But I want to talk to you about this, Mike, because the Mets are 16-12 since May 1st. How have they been able to keep winning despite the lineup having a lot of struggles, right? The sluggers have been struggling to produce runs, but they've been able to keep winning. How have they been able to keep doing it?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is they're getting a well-pitched game, it seems like just about every night, and there hasn't been a weak link in the rotation. You go up and down, and it's been pretty solid here. And you know what you're going to get. You're going to get 6 innings from these guys, 2 or 3 runs allowed, and the bullpen, which was so dominant in April. It has continued that here into May, where the Mets get a lead in the late innings and it's lights out. So uh, just the fact the pitching has been so consistent here, because you're right. Offensively, now Soto just got going this past weekend against the Rockies, and Alonso's looked good again lately. But they've been leaving a lot of guys on base, runners in scoring position. Um, but when you have pitching like this, and you go into a game knowing you're only going to give up a couple, maybe 3 runs, a bad nights when you give up 4 runs, you're really going to be in position to win a game.
Yeah, they really are. And that's been very key for them, the pitching, starting pitching, especially. And got to look at Clay Holmes. Sunday, you saw him pitch a career high, 7 innings pitched. What's been the key for him with his consistency? Because we didn't see that last year across town with the Yankees, but he's been pretty consistent to start this 2025 campaign. What's been the key for him?
Yeah, and you look at last year, even with the Yankees, and you look at his underlying numbers, and they weren't that bad. I think it was a case with him where he got put into some situations. Now last year he was in the closer's role for most of the season, and he had some bad luck there where there were some blown saves, but wasn't necessarily pitching that badly. Now he's come over to the Mets, and the big question was, would he be able to stretch out and consistently do it every fifth or sixth day? And we're seeing that he's able to do it. Uh, the thing with him, now he's given up some homers lately after not giving up any in April, basically. Uh, but there's not a lot of guys on base when he gives up the homers. We saw that today with a couple that he surrendered. He's got that good sinker. He tries to get guys to hit the ball on the ground. He's been successful with that. Getting 7 innings from him today was a good sign. That's the furthest he's gone into a game. And the pitch count was terrific. He was only at 85 pitches when he came out of the game. So, the key for him has been just limiting traffic. Like I said, he's been giving up some homers lately, but not with really with guys on base too much.
Yeah, hasn't been hurt by the multi-run homer, so that's been good for him there. I wanted to talk to you about the injury front here with Brandon Nimmo and his calf, because he played on Sunday as a defensive replacement for Starling Marte at the end of the game. Does that mean that his calf is nothing to worry about right now, or the Mets going to be cautious with him going forward?
No, I think the fact that he went into the game there, uh, he wouldn't have done that if there was any significant concern there. So, there's been a lot of things with Nimmo, and he was just coming off of the neck stiffness a few days ago that had kept him out of the lineup. Now he had this. He had the some knee discomfort in spring training. He's been banged up pretty good, but knock on wood, he's managed to avoid the injured list. And just having Marte that can go out there and give some innings in left field, and Carlos Mendoza didn't utilize him out there in the outfield basically in April, kept him into a DH role. Now the fact that you can put Marte out there, even if it's for 5 or 6 innings, what have you, uh, is big.
Huge for the versatility for this team. So, okay, that's a good sign with Nimmo that he is out there and playing and coming in the game late. So, that's really good for him. Got to talk to you about somebody who's been killing it, and that's Edwin Diaz. He's been attacking batters, staying ahead in counts, limiting walks. Do you see anything different in his approach that's allowed him to limit traffic on the base paths? Because we've known this in the past before, Mike, where when he gets runners on, it can cause a little bit of trouble, but Diaz isn't doing that this year. So have you seen anything different with him in the way he's approaching hitters right now in 2025?
Yeah, and he talks about a mechanical adjustment he made a few weeks ago when we've seen the an uptick in the velocity, and when he really needs it to put a guy away, he's doing it. We saw at the end of the game today, he got up there to 99 miles an hour, and you look at his year last year. Now, of course, he was coming off of the missed season with the knee injury from the World Baseball Classic, and it was really an up and down year for this guy because he slumped in May, and they took him out of the closer's role for a little bit, and then he had the sticky stuff suspension in June, and he wasn't the Edwin Diaz people had come to expect. And then even this season, he was getting into deep counts, putting guys on base, and the last few weeks here, he's just been lights out. And this is the Edwin Diaz we saw in 2022 that got him that huge contract.
Yeah, he's looking like that guy once again. He's been dealing the good stuff. I know you've been keeping an eye on this too, Mike, the catching situation for the Mets right now because Luis Torrens, he's been playing well. How do you see the playing time among Torrens and Francisco Alvarez being split here in the weeks to come, especially if Alvarez doesn't hit like he's expected to at the plate? How do you see Carlos Mendoza handling the playing time for both of his catchers?
It's an interesting situation they have here because when uh, Alvarez came back from the injured list. Carlos Mendoza was adamant, hey, this guy's going to play. He's our starting catcher, and he wasn't committed to burying Luis Torrens on the bench, but it was clear that Alvarez was going to get the majority of reps, and now we're seeing. Him backtrack a little bit here, and Torrens he's earned more playing time. He's played really well. The team's got a much better record with him behind the plate than Alvarez right now. But you know they can't forget about Alvarez here because this is a 23-year-old kid. He's working on and David Stearns pointed this out the other day that he's a guy who's working on a new swing after last season's struggles, and then he opens the season on the injured list, misses the first month, so you got to give him some time here. But I think they're going to continue this almost 50-50 split going forward until and see if Alvarez can work himself out of it a little bit because they want Alvarez to be that number one guy. He's the future at that position. Torrens has played very well for this team, and but Alvarez is the guy you eventually want to see rise up and take it.
Mike, let me ask you this as a follow up to that. Is there a point with Alvarez where it might be getting late early with him? Like, are we looking at he's got to really start hitting and producing over this next month through June? And then you might say, okay, well, maybe Torrens is going to get the majority of the time at catcher. Do you think the Mets have a timetable on this, or they're going to be really patient
Oh,
and not worry about the confidence
yeah,
of the young catcher?
yeah, and listen, as long as the team keeps winning like they have, there's really no sense of urgency to go one way or the other. And now, if the team's dramatically slumps when Alvarez is playing, maybe you got to reevaluate a little. But they want him to they really want him to work himself out of it. And he's a kid. He works extremely hard. He's well regarded in that clubhouse. The pitchers love him. He's very dedicated to the pitching staff. There's a lot of people rooting for Alvarez to get it turned around, and um, I think you just let it go and see where it goes over the coming weeks here. But he's got to get opportunities.
Yes, got to get opportunities, and you're right. Winning cures all, and the Mets are still winning despite Alvarez not getting it going at the plate. Now, the Mets, you know this, the Mets have the best home winning percentage in Major League Baseball. They've won over 77% of their games. What do you think's working for them at Citi Field, Mike? What's allowing them to excel and so thoroughly dominate the opposition at home in Flushing?
Yeah, you look at the numbers and offensively, the scoring average for the Mets is about the same at home as on the road. But the one area that stands out that they've been better pitching at Citi Field than they have on the road. Now, I don't know why that is. I don't know if anybody knows, but. And their OPS at home has actually been better than on the road, but they've also left a lot of runners on base. But they're just comfortable there, and we saw the now. Listen, it's the Rockies that were playing this weekend, and that's a team that has a pretty good chance here to finish with the worst record ever in the modern era. But the ball was flying out for the Mets this week, and you got guys like Nimmo that talk about when the weather warms up there about how they like to hit there. So, but yeah, the thing that stands out right now is just that their pitchers have been better at home than on the road.
Yeah, pitchers have been really good at Citi Field. Last thing for me here, Mike. The Mets, they're now on the road. You're already out there in LA. They got a 4-game set with the Dodgers, who they took 2 out of 3 from last weekend at Citi Field. Then there's 3 with the Rockies, and we know they are the worst team in baseball right now. The vibes are good around this team. What are you going to keep your eye on with this team on the road here on the West Coast this week?
Yeah, and the thing is now they're going into Dodger Stadium for 4 games. It's almost like, just kind of uh match don't get swept against the Dodgers. Try and go 500 out here, and then go into Colorado and sweep that series, and you'll be in good shape. But there's no reason why the Mets can't aim higher. They just beat the Dodgers 2 out of 3 back at Citi Field, and the Dodgers are playing. The Yankees this weekend here, and that's a high intensity series. So maybe you get the Dodgers in a little bit of a lull, but I think the thing you look at here is this is an opportunity for the Mets on this road trip when you have 3 more games against the Rockies, and a few games in Coors Field might make those offensive numbers look a little bit better.
Hey, everybody likes a trip to Coors Field when they're in a slump, right? Get those offensive numbers up. We'll see what the Mets can do this week against the Dodgers and Rockies. Mike Puma will have you covered with us for the New York Post. He'll be out with the Mets on the West Coast. Mike, appreciate you joining me here on Straight Outta Flushing. We will talk soon. Thank you. Okay, it's time to jump into the Mets Mention, where we take a spin through the best, wildest, and most amazing posts on Mets social media this week. First up, we got to give a shout out to Hunter Tobbs, who works for Mets social media, and I think he might have just broke baseball Twitter with a dimensional theory for the ages. He brought 2 events together that happened on May 28th, 2016. The first, Mets fans, you know about this, the ass was in the jackpot. You remember all that went down with Terry Collins. There also was a kid who was in a gorilla enclosure, and Harambe, that gorilla, he met his fate. In one day, one moment in the multiverse tied together Terry Collins, a Cincinnati Zoo, and Mets chaos that went on the field. Truly the junction point of Mets energy. Love how that all came together in one social media post. But moving on, 13 years ago this week, Johan Santana gave us some history. June 1st, 2012, the first no-hitter in Mets franchise history. And your boy, he was in the building. 134 pitches, 0 hits, and a lifetime of goosebumps for Mets fans. Santana's anniversary post got Mets Twitter all in their feelings, and rightfully so. And finally, if you've ever wondered what the family room at Citi Field looks like, well, Brett Beatty's girlfriend gave us the full inside scoop. We're talking big vibes, big orange and blue trim everywhere. The room, That room looks clean. And even a little Mets magic we see there in the background. Mets family, they are living nice while they are watching the game. Shout out to them. Keep those posts coming, Mets fans. Send us your clips. We don't care if it's hilarious, if it's historic, or just plain Queens chaos. You might land right here on the next edition of Mets Mention. Okay, for today's Final Out, we're going to talk about Edwin Diaz. And when you hear Narco blaring at Citi Field, you know what time it is. It's not just the ninth inning. It's Diaz o'clock. And lately, that clock, it's been untouchable. So let's start with the basics here. 13 straight scoreless outings. No hits allowed since May 10th. 13 for 13 in save chances. And his last blown save, you got to go back to last year's archives, and you still wouldn't find one. Friday night against the Rockies, Edwin Diaz struck out the side, threw gas. Final pitch hit 99 miles per hour. That's the fastest pitch he's thrown all year. The only one faster, the last pitch of his save against the Dodgers 6 days earlier. And here's this. When it comes to him, the lights get bright, he's going to level up. Right now, batters are 1 for their last 32 against Diaz. I mean, that's straight up video game stuff here, folks. And his control is tightened up. Only 4 walks in the entire month of May. All strategic. Not one single uh-oh moment. That is just calculated control by this guy right now. Right-handed batters, 1 extra base hit all year. That's it. A lone double in April. He's turned the ninth inning into his own private nightclub, and nobody is getting past that rope. So, what does this all mean for the Mets? Well, there's a business side to the party here for Diaz. He's got a player option out after this season. If he keeps this up, you can best believe he is going to test the market. Remember, he's already the highest paid reliever in the game. But another dominant season, another all-star nod, maybe some postseason shine here, and he could be looking to negotiate to walk here. And the Mets, they'd have to think long and hard about paying even more to lock him in. So right now, enjoy the show, because when that gate opens and Narco drops, you know the game's a wrap. Edwin Diaz isn't just saving games. He's putting the league on alert every time he's on the mound. And maybe he's putting pressure on the front office too. Well, that does it for this edition of Straight Outta Flushing. After a strong homestand, the Mets, they head out west this week, as we said, to play the Dodgers and the Rockies. We'll see what the Mazins can do on the road. Special thanks to my producer, Erica Block, associate producer, Nick Federico, editor, Wesley Spain, and Corey Porter doing a job with editing. I'm Dexter Henry. We'll be back next week with another edition of Straight Outta Flushing.